does, I have no idea, because that's not right. So we can start streaming. Okay, so now we're live. I don't know why that's so small, because this looks right here. It should be up-resing. Well, that's working. Oh, do I want to do that? Yeah, we're good doing that for now, because of the delay. Okay, I just have one more thing I gotta do. If I could plug in the stupid camera to power, but I can't do that because of that stuff, then we would not have the junk on the display, which is really embarrassing.
I found the D-Link and turned off the ACP.
Told you. I also pulled your box out for now, because yours is only a 100 megabit, and I have a 1 gig. So I dropped in my Linksys there, because this was complaining about speed.
So the net gear is out of the loop?
Yeah, I'll pull it in I'll get it to you tonight.
Okay. Is the blue cable back in for the rest of the...
It's not yet. I'll do it in a few minutes.
Right.
Let me get this stabilized.
Right. Well, let me know if it works.
Test. Oh, the power switch. The switch on the cheap microphone went off, so it's not dead anymore. There's a few second lag, so the people on the... It was good. Okay, that's good. Right? Now only noise. So we'll work on that. Okay. Test. Yeah, there we go. Chucky Gang, thank you for responding on the chat there. I will get the other stuff up and running here in a second. Get an IRC. Somewhat like a box. Something like in a box. Okay. What do I want to do? IRC. Okay. Anyway, so we're here at AmiWest 2019. This is Friday, the first day of the show. There's a lot of chaos, a lot of setup going on, as you can see out there. The hope today was to really focus on classic systems, so we're doing that. And exhibitors are here getting set up. I think we're going to have a presentation from Doug from the 10-minute Amiga Retrocast here soon, but I have to do a little bit more work on the... yeah, I'll let Michael know you love his bag. Oh boy. Let me get some work done. Hang out. Testing 1, 2. Okay. So at least there'll be a little bit of background noise through this thing called a boundary mic. Sorry, I'm going to set that there and adjust the levels so you can kind of hear what's going on for the people on the stream. Right now, I'm trying to get two things to happen. I want to get Robert Bernardo's camera as a video source to the video toaster, which should be doing stuff. Right, we got a video toaster flyer here. And I'm trying to get Robert's camera in as a second source.
Okay, one scoop ready to go.
The problem is we're super light on power right now. I don't know if there's another power strip or where this guy's going. No, here we go. Robert. Here you go. We can plug that guy in here.
Okay.
Plug my camera in there. Okay, this will plug into your. This will plug into your
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see it.
camera.
Sony or similar Sony
But
to
don't walk away with that just yet. This. Get this to me. Let's go plug that in so actually this one is the problem is this is not well this will get you audio. I can do audio in, but I'm not gonna put a mic in because I don't have the mic. So we'll go audio out of your system into my board. Okay, go for it. So now this is going to be a little hokey. Apologize for that. My end. Who's that? Okay, here you go. This goes to the other end. So this should be the audio out of your mic and your video. Oh, sorry. Video. Appropriate. Are you sending? Should you do a mic test for me, Robert?
Mics are on live. Mic. 11222. Omnidirectional mics going full blast. Still going.
He's like, no. Yeah, you want to see if I was responsive.
Hello. Omnidirectional mics. Omnidirectional. Omnidirectional. Omnidirectional mics are on.
Some technology from a developer.
Omnidirectional mics. Omnis are on.
Getting into.
Omnidirectional mics are going. Can you hear me? Can you? Yes? Yeah, that's me. Video in, video in, video out.
Let me just fix it.
Not too bad.
Video out.
Yeah, you dug into it. Today we're going to drop down at the top there. Tomorrow,
Full zoom out.
got a day in each game. So you can test it out right finally. You can see tomorrow if it actually works.
Hello, 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 hello. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yep.
I don't even follow it.
So I'm getting audio off the audio off your board. A little hot. Let me bring that down. Okay, so now it's solely on your system.
Okay. Broadcasting now?
The responses now would have to.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the lighting is.
Oh yeah, let's do the lighting. Where that?
Let's do this. Left it on the floor there.
The guy over there. The guy over there. They're all like giants. But he did t-shirts working on here. We're big up over on here, so we're going to have a national or a Major League Soccer team. So a couple of years we're going to have a stadium. Presumably the team will be better.
It's amazing what you can get off of eBay or Amazon.
Right.
So I had these from last year. I went online on Tuesday and found the barcode.
But they still didn't have a...
Mine are somewhere buried someplace. But of course, those are more diffuse. They're not the spotlight like that.
The timing not working out.
Oh, look at that.
So where do you think Doug's going to sit?
No, he's going to be standing. He's going to be right
Amazing.
here.
I've always liked them though.
Where he's going to be. Oh, I'm standing. Okay, standing.
Things that I record that so I'll watch a few games each season. Some of those players. I don't see how they keep the ball like that. If it was me, I would be like, oh, yards down a bit. We must have got a new meter. The old meter like
Let me see how it looks behind my camera. Yeah, looks the same. Well, the same to the camera. As long as I can see the screen.
You know, it is dampening it, but it's not totally knocking it out. If you go out, stand over there, we stand over there.
Stand in.
If you plan the level out right, one of those.
It's better than nothing.
If you hit that one, you get the
We need more of them, but it's better than nothing.
Right.
red light area.
Is it bright?
So yeah,
It's bright on my, when I look directly into it.
yeah, so it's like that game. I'm just like amazed at the free community stuff that's come out. Like, nice things that people are doing. Like track riders.
Oh, there you are. There you go. Oh, read the standards in this.
So I'm right in the middle.
No,
What time is Doug gonna start?
like right now.
So they went to,
Okay. Bill, should I announce again?
What's that?
Should I announce?
Yeah, we're ready to
Okay, that's ready to go.
Yes.
Amiga Art Contest 2019 presentation competition 2019. I'm trying to remember what I said before. It just slipped my mind just like that. Hello everybody, we are ready for our informal presentation in class. So it's the Amiga Art Competition 2019 that was being held. And Doug will explain more about it. I'm sure Doug will introduce himself. He also has, he's also on YouTube with, you can see him talk about his own channel. We have the omnidirectional mics going right now. So anything that you say back there is going to be picked up over here also. So sorry about that. We'll get our unidirectional mics going tomorrow. So as soon as you're ready, well, I'm ready here. So, and the camera's powering up. What about, you're on, Doug. Go ahead.
Great. Well, hello everybody. I'm Doug from Dynamic Computing, and welcome to another episode of 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast. Well, that's usually how I introduce the shows. I've actually been in the Amiga community since 1988. I started out as a VIC-20 kid, then a Commodore 64 kid, and ended up with my Amiga 500 in 1988. I saw the Amiga 1000, but couldn't afford it being a 16-year-old at the time. But when I saw that machine come out at the $595 price point, I begged my mother to help me pay for it, and she did. It was either a trip to Europe with my class, that was my senior class at the time, and she would help me pay for that, or get an Amiga. I chose the Amiga, and I never looked back. I used my Amiga 500 exclusively for years. I used it for both personal use and for business use. When I was young, I was also an entrepreneur, and I helped my stepfather with his music business by helping publish music documents on my Amiga 500. When I was getting ready to go off to college, I ended up getting an Amiga 3000, which is probably the finest Amiga ever created. Love my AGA machines, but there's just something about that sweet Amiga 3000, and those of you who've owned it understand that. Kept using it until I got into the PC field in the mid-90s, maybe 94, 95. And the Amigas kind of just went in the closet. I'd pull them out every once in a while and play with them. And then in 2001, possibly 2002, I was poking around on Amiga Kit back then and saw that they had some new old stock SCOM Amiga 1200s. I thought, hey, why not? Ordered one, and again, played with it for a while. But what I would always do is I would just put them away in the closet, put them away, not look at them for a year, 2 years, pull them out, play with them, put them away. Last year, I started thinking about the Amiga again. I started listening to a few podcasts, the Amigos with John and Aaron. I'm sure some of you have heard them. Keith Lofarius with Amiga Rama, started listening to him. Started thinking, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull my Amigas out. I'm going to play with them for 2 weeks, put them away. What would motivate me to really get back in with the community again? Because I really missed the Amiga community. And I thought, well, I'll start my own show. And so I put some thought, some time into it, looked at what some of my friends were doing online, and realized there was a big niche that needed filling in the Amiga community. And that was somebody who was talking about the original Amiga machines, our classic machines, but not just about video games, because everybody was just talking about Amiga video games. And I love Amiga video games. They're awesome. I've spent hundreds of hours on them. But not too many people were talking about the hardware and the software and the incredible things that the Amiga could do and could still do. Now, there were some of us out there like Amiga Bill, which again, many of you I'm sure know who he is, Bill Winters, with the Guru Meditation. He and Anthony often talked about hardware on their channel. I thought that I would jump in and start doing a show on Amiga hardware and Amiga software. And I thought, well, instead of doing one of these 25, 30-minute shows like a lot of people were doing, I'd keep each one strictly to 10 minutes. All right? I can get across a good point in 10 minutes. Well, that lasted about a month and a half, maybe. If you look at my YouTube channel, you see a lot of them started out at 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15, 18, 20, 25. There's just so much to talk about. I could never keep it to such a short episode. I do a lot of reviews on my channel. I do a lot of hardware reviews for new hardware that's come out. The ACA 500 Plus from Dan Schofield from Individual Computers. That particular episode, I think, has over 6,500 to 7,000 views on it. My reviews and my tutorials of Amiga OS 3.1.4, how to install it, how to get the most out of it, those get thousands and thousands of views, which I'm rather proud of. And also my tutorials, where I step-by-step reteach people how to use their Amigas and teach new people who are just coming into the fold how to use their Amigas. Have become quite popular too, and I get lots and lots of people saying, I couldn't remember how to use the shell. I couldn't remember how to change an icon. But I watched your video and you just walk through it step by step. So it's my way of giving back to the Amiga community. But it wasn't enough. I wanted a little bit more. I wanted people to get as excited as I am about the classic Amigas and the current Amigas too, because I do love them. So I started thinking about what we could do to bring the community together. I've made dozens and dozens of friends in the community. Some of them, like Chris Toast, some of you know, has gotten to be quite a good friend online. Dozens of other friends. I thought, what if we put together a little competition, a little Amiga art competition? We all know the Amiga is fantastic doing artwork. It has been since the day that Deborah Harry and, oh my goodness, somebody help me out.
Andy Warhol.
Thank you. My mind went blank. And Andy Warhol did that absolutely wonderful image at the launch of the Amiga 1000 back in 1985. We all know what the Amiga can do with art. We all know what it can do with 3D images, with animations. I thought, well, let's try and rekindle that spark. So I got in touch with a good friend of mine. Her name is Vicky, and some of you may know her as Pixel Vixen. She is quite popular on YouTube. She does tutorials. She does deluxe paint tutorials where you can actually see her live streaming and drawing pictures live. And the tutorials go sometimes an hour, 2 hours at a time, and they're just fascinating to watch. She draws anime and manga type images, really does a great job. And I thought, who better to help me out with an Amiga art competition than an actual artist. Now, she lives in the United Kingdom. We had never spoken a word to each other in our entire lives, but we had become friends over the internet. I'm sure some of you have also experienced that. You never actually talked to the person, but you know exactly who they are. You know, I walked in here today, I knew who Robert Bernardo was, just like that. Never met him a day in my life, never had a conversation with him, but I knew him through his reputation over the internet. Well, Vicki and I had gotten to become friends, tweeting back and forth, sending each other messages, and when I'd show up in her live stream, she'd chat with me, you know, just talk with me directly. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to ask Vicki if she wants to help. So in August, we started putting out the word that we wanted Amiga artists and anybody in the Amiga community to send us their artwork. I put this on Twitter and on Facebook, some of you may have seen it, asking people to send in for original hand-drawn artwork, photo editing, 3D rendering, and ray tracing, which are three of the common things. Not having any idea what kind of response that we would get. You know, would anyone even care? Well, next thing I know, we're getting submission after submission, and we ended up getting like 40 or 45 submissions from people of artwork they've done on their Amigas, and then many, many, many more people saying, sorry, Doug, I just don't have time to do it now by the time of your deadline, but I want to do it next year. I've got some great ideas. Amiga Bill, have most of you at least heard of Amiga Bill? You know who he is? All right. He had 2 streams on Twitch, and he's quite a popular streamer. He gets a lot of people watching his Twitch streams that were based entirely on the Amiga art competition. He wanted Vicki's opinion on how to do art. And this is exactly what we were trying to accomplish, to get people to think about their Amigas again and what their Amigas could do besides playing video games. So today, I wanted to share with you guys what people submitted for the Amiga art competition and chat with you a little bit about it. Intro to my video, YouTube videos, or most of you, many of you have seen this before. Let's start with the first one here. So, the first picture here, this was submitted by Robin Evans. He created this entirely on an Amiga 1200, and it's a 32K image, and I love that the neon, it really is very striking the way that he created light coming from the image itself. On the actual screen it looks even better, and you can imagine on a CRT it's even 10 times better than that. But just bringing the light out of the Amiga, I thought he did a really great job. Next, we'll go on to our next little Amiga-oriented theme here. This one is really cool. This one was provided by David Wright. Now, take a look at what he did here. An Amiga-themed office. The original Deluxe Paint logo here. The original trash can here, of course, the Boing Ball. Here we've got Defender of the Crown. That's what this is from. It's a still from Defender of the Crown. A clock. I would personally love to have an office like this myself. And he just created this because we went out and said, hey, send us your artwork. And I think he just did an incredible job. And this one was also done, this is a 32 color, no, this is a high color image done with personal paint and TV paint, which is a 16 million color Amiga package. He also submitted another one here, which I think is Bullwinkle the Moose myself. I love the color gradations that he did. I love the way that he reflected the trees in the water. And just the thought that he put into it, you know, just thinking, you know, what can I create? What can I do to make a beautiful image? And I think David did a really good job there. Now this next person is quite the luminary in the Amiga community. There we are. This one is created by Eric Hill, also known as Intricate or Amiga Love. and he hosts a very popular website, AmigaLove.com. If you haven't been there, I recommend joining the forums. It's a lot of fun. And he really went all out with the whole retro theme. 32 color image. Obviously, this is Back to the Future, but back to the Amiga. He just did an incredible job. And on a CRT, it looks absolutely fantastic. 100% hand-drawn image. This is a popular Twitch streamer. Not that one, this one. Domus.Poten from Sweden. All right? We're going international here. Our first people were, in general, from the United States. Although I think Robin was from Europe. Domus.Poten, he's from Sweden. He runs a Twitch channel, mainly about the Commodore 64, but also doing a lot of Amiga stuff. Hand-drawn during his lunch hour. He heard about the competition. He thought, hey, I know Doug. Why not submit something? Personally, I think it looks like maybe a psychedelic Pink Floyd album cover or something like that. The Illuminati. All right. Now this guy is incredible. His name is Jose. He goes by Jojo073. You may know him from Twitter. Hand-drawn image. This one is 320 by 256. He's from Europe. 32 colors. Absolutely beautiful. Not just the woman, but the actual image itself. Just fantastic, the kind of artwork that's still created on the Amiga. Let's look at another one of his images here. There we go. Nice underwater theme with a mermaid. Color palette is absolutely beautiful. 100% hand-drawn. Here, we all know who this is. This is the Borg Queen from Doctor Who. If you look at it just right, you can see Darth Vader. I can't do this. I can't take these kind of lines and make them so perfect and accurate in Deluxe Paint like he did. Just the talent to be able to do that by hand, and the shading. And if you look at the original image, this is actually almost a chrome, almost a reflective color here. Just created for the competition. Next one of my favorites, this black cat. Just the richness of the image, the depth of the black, and the detail that he put in the moon. And he just sat down and decided to create that image. Just phenomenal, phenomenal. Again, Deluxe Paint on this one. Most of them are Deluxe Paint. Kitty cat, let's go past you, kitty cat. Whoops. Sorry. There we go, his next image. Stay. This is, I'm sure, Harry Potter's owl, or somebody else said in the chat when Pixel Vixen and I did the live stream of this. Either Harry Potter's owl or the owl from Labyrinth, the David Bowie movie from back in the 80s, if you remember the owl from there, reaching down to grab it. Take a look at this. This is a 16-color Amiga image. This isn't AGA, this isn't 24-bit. This is a 16-color image he used to create this. Just phenomenal, phenomenal. Now this next one is quite unique. This gentleman used to use his Amiga to create images for professional brochures back in the 90s and early 2000s. These were done on an Amiga 1200, and these pictures were used in brochures that were sent out for publication to represent these particular parts. I have no idea what these parts are. I mean, that's some kind of electrical thing, I'm sure. But just the fact that he used his Amiga in a professional sense is just amazing. And that he submitted these, I just think is fantastic. He did a great job. Let's move on to our next person here. These are from a video game that was unreleased. The gentleman is still working on it. This is Simone Bernaccia, who's again from Europe. He's working on a Japanese role-playing game called Holy Warrior, but he said they've stopped working on it. And I've been talking to him and asking him to maybe start working on it again. We need more people making brand new games for the Amiga community. Beautiful pictures that he created as background images for this unreleased game. Now, a couple of fun images are from Bruce Johnson here. He just created these on a whim for the contest by hand in deluxe paint. He thought, well, let's create some monsters. This guy's from Australia. So now we've got Sweden, Australia, England, and we've had one from Germany in there. And he took these pictures on a CRT and sent them to me. This is another unreleased Amiga game. This one's called Witch Switch, which is a game that this gentleman is working on. His name is Joshua Dolan, and he's been working on this game for a couple of years now. And I think you'll agree, as a 64-color extra half-bright image, the amount of detail, you know, this could be almost any game created in the last 15, 20 years on a console, some of the 2D platformers that have been created. And he's working on this, working on creating this for a traditional ECS Amiga. Just unbelievable. And I hope he finishes the game too. Another person from another country, this guy goes by Puny, and he is in the demo scene. And we all know, heard about the Amiga demo scene. We've all seen the Amiga demos when we were younger. And he's still creating demos. Every year they have Amiga competitions for new demos. And he got in touch with me for two reasons. Number one, he interviewed me for a disc magazine that they create about the Amiga that comes out about 2 or 3 times a year. I'll send a link to you guys. And he created this as kind of an introduction to one of the new Amiga demos that they're working on. Really kind of a cool effect. And you can see how it's got a very demo-y feel to it. Next, moving right along, this one I absolutely love. This is from Mike Mijatov. All right? Now, he's from Serbia. He was born and raised in Serbia, lived there most of his life. He now lives in Indiana. But these are pre-World War II, some kind of pump or something that was used in Serbia pre-World War II. When I look at this image, I can almost feel the cold, I can feel the snow crunching under your feet. If you look at it on the actual monitor, and especially on a CRT, you can see these beautiful color gradations down here, and just the incredible amount of detail they put into this. This also happens to be the only submission from an Amiga 1 computer. This was done on a Amiga 5000, an A5000, using what did he say? I think he used personal paint on there. Yes, he used personal paint on there. And a graphics tablet too. He did this all with a graphics tablet. Love that picture. Now next, we've got a fun picture. Here we are. Rest in peace, PC. This is Phil Heron from Europe. He created this in 1995 when he was just a kid. He was probably 15, 16 years old, having fun on his Amiga, drawing a picture about the death of the personal computer. I love this picture because it's not taking things too seriously, just having fun, just a happy, well, tombstone. How happy is a tombstone? But just a happy, fun, exciting picture, and I think Phil did a great job. He also submitted a rather dark one, which is a 3D image that he rendered, I think he said maybe in distant suns, and then touched it up in deep paint. But that one's a little hard to see. Now this next one, I was absolutely flabbergasted and floored when I got this next image here. If it can come up on the screen, there we go. You guys may even recognize that name down there. Eric Schwartz sent me an email. You know him from artwork in Super Frog, from Amy the Squirrel, and tons of animations that showed up on cover discs back in the 80s and 90s, showed up on Fred Fish discs back in the 80s and 90s. Eric Schwartz was just a name that Amiga users knew worldwide. He sent me an email. He said, "Hey Doug, I saw your promotion for the Amiga Art Contest come across." He says, "I thought I'd create something, in support of the Amiga." So he did this on a 4000T tower with an 060 with Image Effects, Art Department Pro, and Personal Paint 7.3. And I don't know, it just almost feels like Pablo Picasso coming down and handing me one of his art projects. He's just such a big name. Now, another Amiga luminary who sent in their artwork is none other than Amiga Bill himself, Bill Winters. This one was not eligible for the competition because he actually worked on this with Pixel Vixen. He did a 2-hour-long live stream where he and Pixel Vixen took a photo, 16 colors, that's all, 16 color image here. They took this photo, they rendered a kind of a 3D boing ball. They took that and warped it in, what did they use? Image Effects. They used Image Effects to give it this warped effect. So the boing ball rising here, reflected in the water, had the nice wavy water effect. And they brought in the silhouetted palm trees. Absolutely gorgeous. And just out of the blue, he's streaming for 2 hours with 50, 60, 70 people watching, creating artwork that never would have been created if Vicki and I had decided, now we don't want to mess with the art contest. He did a fantastic job. Okay. Now let's see. I think we have some from Vicki. Now, Vicki has been drawing for years. She lives in the United Kingdom, and she's quite a good artist. All of these are hand-drawn images from Vicki. Just go back here. That's a 640 by 400 image, done in just black and white. Let's see, and nice color image. See how she's done the reflections in the window here. Again, hand-drawn. These are not scanned-in images. She just draws all these by hand. She actually does tutorials on this one. You can look up on her website, and you can watch her create this from the very first pixel to its completed version. And that's not quite the completed version. She said she did this one in about 30 minutes. That would take me like a year to draw that. So she's quite the good artist. She generally draws in deluxe paint on an Amiga 600 with a 68,000 CPU with, I think, 8 megs of RAM on it. Now going into the photo category, this is another one from Amiga Bill. This was taken in Morocco. He took the picture himself. If you can believe it, that is the entire palette right here. He wanted to represent the 16 color palette by actually putting each color down here as a square. That's the number of colors in this entire gorgeous picture. Just done on an Amiga. Just done on an Amiga. ECS Amiga. Let's take a look at his next one here. He did this one for the Retro Hour. They wanted pictures of the Retro Hour sent in. If you haven't heard of the Retro Hour, it is a podcast in the United Kingdom where Dan Woods, who's been in the Amiga community for 20 years, and Ravi Abbott, who's also been an Amiga fixture for years, do a weekly podcast interviewing some of the most incredible people that you've ever met. Have you guys ever listened to the Retro Hour podcast before? They are interviewing people like Scott Adams, who did the VIC-20 video games, the text adventures. They're interviewing people who worked for Sega. They're interviewing people who worked for Commodore back in the day. beautiful 45-minute long interviews. I recommend checking them out. And Bill did this picture. He edited this photo in here. He added a few little ducks here. And this is 4096 color ham image, but he cheated. It's actually in 640 by 480, which, as you know, ECS Amigas can't do ham in that. So this was done on an AGA Amiga, but using the Amiga's ham 6 mode instead of its ham 8 mode. This next picture, one of my very favorites. I absolutely love this one. This is a 16 color image. You know who this is? Iron Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
All right. He took this picture. Bill is an Emmy Award-winning videographer. He's done work for Netflix, and he just won an Emmy for one of the video introductions for Major League Baseball. He took this picture of Mike Tyson a few years ago. 16 color image. 16 shades of gray on here. He went in and manually adjusted the contrast in Iron Mike's face here to bring out more details in the tattoo there, removed all the background images, and just made an absolutely stark and gorgeous picture. And like I say, when you see it on a real screen, it looks so much different than seeing it on there. You can see the just gorgeous contrast of the image of Mike Tyson here. Let's move on a little bit. This one, also an Amiga luminary. If you've ever been to Lemon Amiga, which is a very popular web forum, this was done by Dan, who runs it, goes by the name of Old School on Lemon Amiga, and this is for a slideshow sample presentation that he did. Just took a scanned image, cropped everything out of it, and presented it like it was going to be a slide. And I think he did a fantastic job. Now this one, this is done by a gentleman who goes by the name of Invent71. His name is Kevin Saunders. He's an Australian. He has done things like Iridium, which is a new game that's coming out. He's doing a lot of the graphics work for that, based on the Commodore 64 and Amiga classic, Iridium. It's kind of the continuation of that. So he's working on that. He also has done the artwork for a lot of Amiga and Commodore 64 video games that you guys may have heard of. Most recently, he did a lot of the graphics work for Rygar that Graham Cowie did. If any of you have seen Graham's work on the Rygar arcade port that was just released about 2 weeks ago, Invent did that. This is a picture of him, apparently on LSD.
Oh.
Extra half-bright image. This isn't even a ham image. This is just an extra half-bright image where he used Brilliance, which is a fantastic program, and just edited the photo to make it unbelievably impactful. I really, really was impressed with this one. Moving right along. This is some character named Douglas Compton who did this one. I took a trip with my beautiful wife and my stepdaughter to the Grand Canyon a couple of months ago. I took a picture of this tree on my Canon camera, 10 megapixel camera, brought it into the Amiga as a JPEG file, and brought it in via AdPro, Art Department Professional, and brought it into Personal Paint 7.3, which is a brand new update that just came out a few months ago, and did a filter to give it a painted effect. It looks like Bob Ross came in here and drew himself a nice little tree, and you can see the painted effect going all the way through the image. I thought that was kind of a nice one. By the way, I'm exempt from winning the competition. This next one, on that same trip, we went to Las Vegas. This is a set of hotels in Las Vegas that actually look like they're crooked. They actually look like that. This is fairly well what the hotels look like. This is a 256 color image, 640 by 480. And what I did with this one is I took out all of the sky, all of the black sky, and I found this really awesome gradient tool in Personal Paint 7.3 and applied the gradient tool to the sky to give it kind of a neon and exciting, a boom in your face look to it. So the sky itself had as much impact as the neon lights on all of the hotels in Vegas there. And speaking of Las Vegas, I picked a real winner here and did this one too. This is the Eiffel Tower in Las Vegas, converted into a stomping robot with a laser. So I don't know why this one didn't win the competition myself. Just did that one for fun. Now, I'll pass by there, something completely different. Into the 3D category. We didn't have nearly as many entries into the 3D category as I would have liked. This one was submitted by Bruce Johnson from Australia. He'd drawn a few pictures before too. A lot of you have probably heard of Amiga Passion with Steve Clifford in the United Kingdom. He does an absolute ton of fixing Amigas. Anything from replacing capacitors to fixing traces on Amigas. He does a ton of it. And he created a couple of these images. The first one was for Steve Clifford. This is just another 3D image that he created. It's a video he took with his phone of his screen because he couldn't send it to me. This was submitted by Invent, the same gentleman who created that really trippy LSD picture we saw before. This is his 3D image that he submitted. I could stare at that all day. That is just so good. So we got a lot of people who submitted their artwork to the Amiga art contest. And it was difficult for Vicki and I to pick out a winner from the competition. Now what we offered was the winner of each category would win a copy of the brand new Personal Paint 7.3C that was just released by AEON a few months ago and sold by places like Amiga Kit. 3 copies were graciously donated by Aaron and Jeff from Amiga on the Lake. And so she and I had to go over and think about all these images and pick what our favorite was from each category. And the ones we picked were from Australia. We picked Mike's image of the Serbian winter. Something about it just struck both of us so much. It was so beautiful and just so stark and had such emotion to it. We both agreed on that. I was really surprised Eric Schwartz didn't win, but we have to be true to ourselves. In the next category, which is, well, now you know who won the 3D category. The photo category, Invent's picture. Something about it, oh, come on now. There we go. Something about this just really called out to both Vicki and I. The starkness of it, the creativity of it, the picture just spoke to both of us. And in the photo category, this is the one we picked in the photo category. And in the 3D category, we picked Bruce Johnson's rendition of the Amiga Passion logo. We thought that he did a great job, and the fact that he actually used one of his Amigas to do something creative for a current vendor, I just thought was really great. We thought that was really awesome of him to do. So he won in that category. We had a lot of fun with it. It was a lot of work. She and I spent many, many hours practicing, rehearsing, setting up the pictures, deciding how we were going to present things, and then deciding who we were going to pick as the winner. But we loved it. It brought the community together. We actually presented all of this on an hour-and-a-half-long live stream on YouTube last week, where she and I live streamed together through a Skype call, and we had 60 or 70 people join in, watching just about that same thing you saw there, but an hour-and-a-half long, with conversation with people in the chat, people saying, gosh, I'm sorry, I wish we could have, I could have submitted a picture in time. but maybe next year, and just people getting excited over the Amiga, getting excited over creating again with the Amiga. So we're going to do it again next year, and we're going to make it bigger. We're going to open up the categories to animations, because Amiga's been very big in animations. And I really hope that some of you maybe will think about pulling out your old paint programs in your Amiga and maybe sending a submission to us next year for the Amiga Art Competition 2020. Thank you very much. Any questions about anything?
Doug, when do you start giving entries for the competition next year?
You know, we're probably going to start in June, I think. This year we did it in August, and it ran through October, but we're going to give it a little longer this time. So I'm thinking maybe June through October we'll be taking entries.
You were criticizing, or you were giving your opinions on all of this artwork. Do you yourself have an art background?
I am a photographer from way back in the day, and I've always done a lot with digital photography and traditional photography. Had my own darkroom for years, shot weddings for years. So that's my art background. I cannot draw a smiley face to save my soul.
Where do we find about your art competition?
You can find that on my website, which is www.penmarc.com. 10marc.com.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment. The picture with the owl,
Yeah.
I think that was for sure the Signosis owl. I'm pretty
How
convinced.
did we not think of it? We're thinking Harry Potter. We're thinking Labyrinth. Why would we not think the Signosis owl?
It was definitely.
You're right. It is.
You're right.
JoJo is a fantastic artist. The guy who did that, he submitted another picture on Twitter the other day of a fake video game. Let me bring it up real quick because it is so cool.
Yeah. Okay, so the biggest thing I need to figure out is why you die loading libraries.
Oh, how funny. That's Pixel Vixen.
Oh.
Coincidentally, her first thing that came up is she colored her hair. How about that?
By the way, I think it was also on to you with the FAQ implementation. It doesn't seem to, because I can running blacklist with libraries.
This is another one that JoJo did the other day.
Something actually
Just out of whim, of a fake game of an Amiga capacitor. So it's a super capacitator. And the game's not real, but he just had such fun creating this Norman Rockwell type image of a non-existent Amiga game. So he's an incredible artist. I recommend following him on Twitter.
So we took a look at it, and all the way
Thank you, Doug.
You betcha.
it's really definitely an interesting there. It really is.
Okay, that was Doug of the 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast. We are going to clear that and go back to the other camera, which I shall point another direction. Get this fixed. Okay. Well, I wanted to get things started and make sure that we were good for the day. That was a nice little surprise, unplanned effort by Doug to give us the images from the Amiga Art Contest. I hadn't seen those before, and I didn't. It's really fantastic artwork, no doubt, absolutely fantastic. So it's now 7:15 p.m. because I didn't set the clock right on this computer. I will let Doug know that the folks on the live stream appreciated it. He's talking right now, just off camera. So what's up next is we will be finishing up the setup. We kind of rushed things together to do the presentation you just saw. So we used Robert Bernardo's camera as input 2. We pulled audio from his microphone. Tomorrow what we'll do is we'll give audio to him from the board. And everyone says thank you on the internet. They said great presentation. The whole internet. They're all here.
Everybody.
Everyone.
Entire internet.
The whole thing.
Helgi Fallheim still on there? He was on there earlier.
Probably.
Yeah. He does the intro song. He did the intro song to my.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
Credit him every time down there. So
That's great. Yeah, we had about 25 people. Let's start.
that's great.
Not bad for Friday.
Yeah, I put it out on Twitter and Facebook and other places.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow will be fun. Thank you. So, yeah. I got to talk to Brian. I'm going to bring up the boundary mic again. That seemed to be working for some background noise, and leave the camera going. And clean up a little bit more and get ready for the show tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. You're welcome to hang out. I'm going to power down in about a half hour, around 5 o'clock, West Coast. Bye. Testing. Gotta love that boundary mic.
bugging me, man. You're bugging me.
Yeah, I've already set up all this stuff. The XLR is the little guys. Okay. So I just don't know where you're Okay. There is a couple boxes in that corner.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know whether the bottom, it may be in the bottom house.
So you see that corner there? Yeah, let's look at that.
Fountain of joy.
His is over here, so they're going to get lost, but the monitors, you know, we're moving. One glass on the table. That's not going to be a problem at all. I'll just,
I've been told that good.
My brain's doing things and my body's doing other things.
My foot out.
I don't know where I'm going.
We're not talking to each other much.
Okay.
Oh, did it finish? Did it finish, Robert? Thank you. Oh, you got out of that power thing too. Great. Awesome. Making progress there. I emergency did it. I wanted to break that. Yeah. Exactly. And we don't have the XLRs. I don't know where the XLRs are.
They'll be here. I can go get them if they're not here.
They don't need to be here now.
Sitting in my garage, but I don't think it has that.
We need them for the sound.
I know.
I can do everything else except for make the noise.
No, I know, because they connect the speakers to the wall.
Worst case scenario. Worst case, we need one of the right kind of XLR that we can drop a speaker like over there. You know, like
It's male connection.
what I'm just saying. Worst case, one. Get away with one speaker. Worst case. These are female on the board. I think the lighting actually works really well. You look much better lit. It's still like that yellowish of the room. It's a very warm light.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
I was going to see the difference. My light from below is cool and this is warm.
Very warm.
But of course, I'm not a lighting person, so oh well.
Thank God none of us are. We go crazy.
Okay, Bill, I can move this table out if you want.
Not quite yet. I got it.
Table out.
I think I'm okay. Just give me a few more minutes.
All I need is Ethernet. We're good to
Do you have an Ethernet cable on you? Here you go.
Cat 5.
I was trying to find the appropriate one. Yeah, it's Weird Stuff Warehouse, which is closed now. It's a great loss. So I bought one and I was running my house on it for a while. It kind of died. So I switched to like a $150 switch. But you can't do that. $20 for a 24 gig. Sorry, 1 gig. That was the wrong thing. Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
You need a beer? Grab a beer. We got it donated for volunteers.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Whoops. So that's what happens when you turn off the main camera that is your Genlock source to a video toaster. What are you taking a picture of?
You're set up.
Whoops.
I'll help you with that. Watch out that cord there. Oh, will you keep it in that position there?
The only thing I'm concerned is I need to shift my table over like a millimeter to make this fit. Yeah, on my table. This is the business end.
I think that will, yeah, that should be good. So these boxes move over a little bit.
Yeah, they slide easy. I got it. We can fix it later. That's fine. That's not that important. Because when I power this all down, it'll be easy to shift it. I just don't want to move it while it's all on. Oh, right.
Scaffolding or whatever.
So what we do next show-wise is we don't have the audio folder anymore. So I've got the computer here. I've got the lighting on this side. So I'm thinking we already have someone, I think Brian said that's the group. I think the other speaker, we probably want to run down in that corner. Where, we can do one speaker over there, or we can have two. And run the second one projecting sound in the second one in the room. It's an interesting question whether we want to do that. I have no Your enthusiasm of the question tells me what my answers are. It just fixed itself.
Mine is it's all tore up.
If somebody trips over it. Really bad.
Mr. Borsar.
Yes. So let's take this guy down right here. Yes, Paul.
Have you got an Ethernet cable I can steal on one of these boxes? Point the box.
Top,
One of these?
Second? Yeah, one of those square ones.
Oh, cool. Cool. Thank you.
Please take the appropriate length cable.
It's long enough. Good. Longer the better. I don't know how long that is, but it's got to be. Yeah, I know. Right. Probably a good enough solution. Definitely don't need a 100-foot cable. Satellite.
Yeah, we're good now. We'll see if we're good. I think we're good.
Hey guys, network guys, we're disconnected down here. Let me pick you up and you'll get lights. 30 seconds.
Oh, this is the way it is.
tape has reached the end. Awesome.
So there's some race condition somewhere. That's also possible. I have the king of the race condition. You'd swear I don't.
Near the plant where it's backpack. So that's why he got it. This thing's like unfortunately, Ron, we do not have the ability to make new plans. But what we need is the ability to plug. Apple, is it Lightning? Go. And here's the cool thing. Well, all this is, there you go. I can plug your iPad back to this, which will feed this monitor, that screen, and the output. Let me tell the people on the stream, because we have a surprise presentation.
Let's wait until we make sure to get it set
Okay,
up first.
we'll see if anybody's still here. We have 25, well, it says peak. I don't know how many people are currently listening. Oh, there's analytics. We have 17 concurrent currently, so that's decent. For day one, I'm not complaining. Let me get the light up again. Can I have you talk? Hey, move this guy over. Here's what I want to do with this table. I want to pivot it so it's here. I don't know if there's any. Yeah, so
Someone lifting the cable, someone lifting the table, someone watching the cable.
hey, Fred, can you help us with this? I want to pivot this table, and there's a bunch of cables now. It's more of a, what I want to do is move this table so it's like here.
So somebody needs to watch the cable.
Yeah. We good? Oh, I've got a short cable here. So I want to kind of pivot around this point. So if you can go about 3 times faster than I can. Yeah, there we go. We're good there. We'll take it. Yeah, this is good. I'm going to put him on this side.
Yelling at
In front of that table.
No, it was you. It was Paul. You did it. It was Paul. Unscripted.
Do you need, are we going to be using it for projection screen or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It'll be on the wall.
Yeah, it was.
On the wall.
No, it was.
On the wall. Okay, for those on the YouTube stream, we might have Ron Nichols present. can you turn that horizontal? Yeah, much better. So how much time are you going to take? 10 minutes? You need about 10 minutes?
Sure, I'll randomly talk until you tell me to shut up.
Okay.
Maybe around 10 minutes.
I'll clip you at 10.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Jay Minor, thank you. Look, I mean, this is what people are seeing on the internet. It works. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Considering what's happening, is we're taking it from HDMI into NTSC.
Through Lightning, HDMI.
Right.
Yeah.
Into NTSC, into a video toaster, into a PC, and broadcasting it. Good times, good times. Okay, so this is good. Robert, did you get all plugged back in?
Yes, I'm plugged in.
Let me test your audio real quick.
Yep. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Should we, do you want to do the honors of the announcer, Robert? You got the teacher's voice.
Wait a minute, what? Okay.
What is it, a postscript to my Amiga because we talked 4 years ago? Postscript? Yeah.
Ready, Bill? Hello, everybody. We have another surprise presentation. This time from Ron Nicholson. It's his postscript to his Amiga talk that he gave 4 years ago. So once again, if you could gather in front and listen. And again, we just have the omnidirectional microphones going. So anything that we hear in back will be picked up over here in the front.
On top of that, we don't have the audio system yet, so Ron is going to be talking. So if we ask for everyone to sit further up and be quiet.
Yes, sir.
So
Oh, wow.
let Ron scream.
Get closer and shut up.
Dull.
All those things together.
Okay, hi, I'm Ron Nicholson. I gave a talk here 4 years ago on the early history of Hitoro and Amiga. I'm going to talk, add on to the end of that talk, and I'm going to give this in a sort of a backwards order. I ended the talk, I think, 4 years ago with the founder of the entire Amiga project, Jay Minor. I talked about him back then from Atari. He also did the Atari DCS, Atari 400, 800, as well as he's the first named inventor on almost all the Amiga patents. Let's see, let's back up here. Okay, where do I go from here? I have something else on another presentation. Let's see, what did I do? Where did I put that? Put that here? No. Oh, perhaps this is what I get for doing an ad-lib presentation without remembering where all my stuff is.
From your iChat.
Let's see. Is it Keynote? It's not. It might be. Oh, here it is. Okay, this presentation. So I guess Bill was lining up speakers for 4 years ago, and I forget who in the grapevine. Someone said that you were putting on some talks about the Amiga, and I looked at some of the names and said, oh, that includes only a few people from the early years. Why doesn't it include Joe DeCure and myself? And he said, who are you? And I sent him references to the patents. And so he allowed me to come up and talk about stuff that I barely remember. Since then, I've also given talks in Neuss, Germany, at the event there. And this is one I gave at the Asilomar Microcomputer Conference, where various people from the earliest days of Homebrew Computer Club talk about the earliest things that happened in the microcomputer industry. But the talk I gave there, I talked about my project history and, let's see, going back, this is just interesting stuff that I gave before. Let's see, where I'm working backwards, you saw this already, the Amiga 1000. Where's interesting stuff? Okay, so I was absolutely fascinated. Everybody here is completely familiar, but I just want to tell you, when you work on whatever you work on now, how surprised would you be if 35 years later you walk into a room and there are like 200 people absolutely interested in what you did 35 or 40 years ago? I was astounded. I was also astounded that people were still writing code for this machine that I had designed, decades ago. It's incredibly active, but what I want to say is how surprising it is that this happened thanks to the Amiga community. I am completely astounded that all these people are doing such amazing work on these things. Here's a picture of the audience standing room only at Neuss, listening to my talk. This is a cheat. This is actually the talk after me because I got off stage and took it. I forgot to take it. When I was on the stage like everybody else, they get up there and say, wow, and take a picture on stage. I have to remember to do that. This is the Amiga 30th event at the Computer History Museum, which also had a huge crowd. Let's see, demo scene. I found after the Amiga 30th event, a couple of years later, I was digging around the garage and I found this. This is, I think, one of the only existing chip plots of the actual released Agnes in the Amiga 1000. One of these days I'll get it scanned and printed up nicely. I just took a photo on my cell phone with this one. And of course you've seen Dell Lux platform and stuff like that. I wanted to talk a little about the technology. I didn't talk about it completely last time, but 5-micron depletion mode. Exactly what does it mean? It means this is the technology that only has one 5-volt power supply. The chips just a few years before this, you had to have like -5 and +12 and various other power supplies. And of course, CAD tools, what CAD tools, we did all this, pencils on Rubylith, no CAD tools. So let me just talk about some other things that have happened since then. When I worked at Hewlett-Packard following Amiga, Jay Miner was nice enough to give me one of the early pre-production units of an Amiga 1000 just after they introduced it at Lincoln Center. So I took it to HP and showed it off to a few people. I showed it off to 2 engineers in particular. A month later, I asked what happened to these 2 engineers. They'd left. I found out a year later that they had gone on to SGI, and Dave Ramsey was in charge of their workstations, and Tom Termelak was their CEO. And basically, a lot of it was, I think it was because they looked at the Amiga and says, oh, this is the future, we should do something like that. HP's management, of course, is another story about whether they would do anything like that. So I went to SGI later also, and a story that I have is how do you impress your own family? For some strange reason, Amiga fans are impressed with what I did 3 or 4 decades ago. But the kids, he looks at the computers I did. I think I showed him a computer I worked at in the Smithsonian, and he says, Dad, this is among really ancient, old stuff designed by dead people who died a long time ago. He was not impressed at all, but I did manage to impress him a little because I worked at SGI, and this is something actually, it's hard to impress RJ with things, but he was actually impressed that I did this. But at SGI, I worked a little bit on a certain chip for a certain system, and we had prototypes of the software company developing for it because they didn't really know how to write software for it. So what we had prototypes in the lab for 6 months before it was ever released was, and let's see if I can find the punchline to this. Where is the punchline to this? That what they were testing in the lab was the prototype for the Nintendo 64 Super Mario 64. So 6 months before any kid in the US had seen it, I got to practice on it. So I actually impressed him by, I think it was for a period of 6 weeks, I could actually beat him in a video game with that head start. So advantages of getting hired because your name's on Amiga patents. The other interesting thing is how do you impress your wife? You know, she's not a computer type. She works in biotechnology. She's the vice president regulatory, and you know, she's impressed by things that is a cure for a new subset of cancer, right? That's impressive, which it should be. She's saving lives. So how do I impress her? Well, I impress her by finding out that I am listed twice in IMDb as a performer. So this is only because people are still interested in the Amiga 3 decades later, and I think it's the Fletchers and the other movie. Fletcher did one, and I can't remember their name, did the other, but anyway, they interviewed me for 2 of their documentaries on Amiga, and little did I know that I would end up with an IMDb listing as a performer, and that actually did impress the wife maybe for
What's
5
your
minutes
rank?
or whatever. I won't show that. Anyway, that's my 10-minute talk of a follow-on from the Amiga talk where I talked about all the technical details. I guess you could find that online if you want all the details about the early history of the Amiga and the concepts that went into the architecture and what crazy ideas that we have, some of them actually worked. So anyway, thank you very much for your attention. How did I do on time? Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
There's got
That's the boundary. Okay. That's all down. That's muted. It's all muted. So that's got to be coming from there. Oh, shoot. Control room out. Main out. Wait. Stereo returns. Main output. We want to do right and left. Okay, so now that is in source 4. I don't even know if people are listening. I'm going to shut down the stream here because we're working on the audio stuff. And we got to get this working for tomorrow. So thanks to everyone. Stream is going down. Appreciate it. Let me fire up some. Uh-oh, I launched Lightwave. Shit. I only have like 8 megabytes of RAM in this computer. So I need to find a wireless small keyboard that has the number pad. Because the toaster requires the number pad.
Right, yeah.
2 T's and shutting down?
Yeah.
Okay, so back to this.
Yeah, definitely stereo out of the box.
Definitely stereo out of the box. Let's do this. I can determine if we're getting stereo out of here. How? Okay, I found part of the problem. This is stupid. I need to find a direct. That was not working well. Directs are going to be here. This is the audio box. So this is not working properly. In that, at present, it is not giving us stereo when it should. I'm trying to get from
Out of that.
yeah, RCA to quarter. There's got to be more. Oh, here we go. Yeah, isn't this it? No, it's not it.
No, that's not. That's
Just pull them all. Here's one. Yeah, there you go. See? That's why I buy this shit.
I have boxes.
Well, the difference is I have all my boxes here.
Yeah.
That's the difference. No. But it still is not doing what it's supposed to do. It's still not giving us stereo when I do that. And now that shit's back.
Well, it's on that song. It's on the same song that was giving you shit before.
Yeah, let's pick a new song. That might be a bad song. It's just fucking weird. You know what? I'm wondering if those 3 files got corrupted.
Yeah. There's that one Doug's cry, that's the one that was making noise before. Well, why not put that one on? Is the noise gone now?
What's the IP address? 50? Hit the internet radio. Actually, scroll all the way down, and there's a classical Italian station in there. Is it there? No, just go internet radio. Just play one of the internet radio songs.
Did you let him go in this nice way? We took him to the store. He's like, this is the one I want. But you don't have the pants.
You know, I think something's wrong with the board because this shit's not working. Not working at all. And that does not make any sense. It should be working. Okay, I'm gonna hit the stop stream button here.